slate. It's a big one. We had a kind of a lame-ish one last night. I lost a little bit, but I split some. I like cash in the 555, but not the 888, and just was one of those weird slates where, it was actually interesting because I noticed that not nearly as many people were on Seattle, so I thought I was going to be very, very live looking into the late stuff because I had like 5-man stacks of Seattle that were already like cashing, and they were pretty low on, but didn't get there. Anyway, Sheets, how did you do? And then what are your thoughts on this slate?
Yeah, so I had a couple of swipes at the lottery. That was pretty much it.
Really?
But the big news was that big news is that I played my charity poker tournament last night.
Oh, how did it go?
And I took it down. Thank you very much.
You won it.
I posted it on their Discord. I posted it on Twitter. I posted it everywhere. Totally came out of retirement. I play this thing once a year, and I won an enormous trophy, probably the most expensive trophy ever won in my entire life.
That's amazing.
Yeah, because because whatever prize money I was going to get, I just donated back anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then with like all the rebuys I did and like juicing up like all the prize pool, probably cost me about $5,000. But you know what? It was all for kidney research for the charity that I'm associated with. So it was all good, and I ended up winning the cheese. It was a lot of fun.
That's really cool, man. That's awesome. It's got to be fun to win a tournament after the first time.
Always.
Yeah.
And it was your normal quality of play in the charity tournaments, as you can imagine. But you know what? Everybody was having a good time, and that was the bottom line.
Yeah, nice. Well, that's a lot of fun. I mean, now you've got to go back to back as a winner here and try.
Yes, absolutely. Springboard. I from 0 to like minus 5,000 with the trophy. So maybe I'll turn the trophy in. Oh, meanwhile, so I got details on this MMA live final.
Oh yeah,
dude, it's really something made for like the young and the not working people. But it's a whole listen. It's an awesome thing. The card is on Saturday. That's when the thing is. But they want you to fly in like Thursday for like a welcoming party, like Thursday night. And then Friday, there's like a brunch followed by the official weigh-ins at the wherever they have the weigh-ins, and then like a dinner, and then Saturday at the actual fights and stuff. It's not meant for me. You know what I mean? I don't know if I can do it. On the one hand, I spoke to my friend Chris, who would go with me if I went, and it's one of those things where I really can't go, but on the other hand, I really can't not go. It's really I kind of want to go, but I kind of can't. But then I sort of should. It's tough. It's a tough call. But I'm gonna stew over it. We'll just kind of see. Stacy, another thing. Stacy says, no, you could totally go. I wasn't exactly sure if you could totally go and expect to like have a spot in her bed when I came home, or whether you could actually go because she really wants me to go. It's kind of hard to decipher sometimes. But we'll see. But they definitely listen. I know you've been to them. You know what I mean? I guess they do. Obviously, they make it a big deal about it. They do like a really good job with them. So hopefully, hopefully I can make it. And if not, I'll make another one.
Yeah, they're all fun, but I understand it's different for everyone.
So as far as this slate goes, there's I don't know. I found this more intriguing than most people. That you get the dream matchup between Patrick Corbin and Jordan Lyles. They finally go against each other in a game. And it's interesting because it brings up one of the very first things I asked you about baseball. We're going to get to when we get to this game is when you have a really bad pitcher against a really bad hitting team. From DFS perspective, like what does that mean you're supposed to do? Are you supposed to take the bad hitting team against the bad pitcher, or the bad pitcher against the bad hitting team? And the answer is usually it depends on ownership and the slate and stuff. But I always find that a very interesting question. I guess we'll get to it when we get to that game. That was the first thing that stood out. And the second thing is that, there are obviously a lot of good pitching options at various degrees. And then you also will see kind of like the difference between good DFS pitchers and good upside pitchers. I think it's a pretty cool kind of like standalone-ish type slate because there's no basketball tonight, right? There's no basketball. There's no nothing, right? So it's one enormous baseball slate that people are going to battle in. So I'm kind of into it.
Yeah, and I'm going to remind everybody to like and subscribe to the channel and all that stuff. I'm excited to get into it, but my first look is a little I actually feel like there's less hitting spots than that I'm interested in than usual, which just always is interesting to me because I usually am trying to cut down. And in my first look, which I woke up in the middle of the night for some reason, couldn't sleep, so I went through all my first look stuff then. And my first look was that, wow, there really aren't that many teams that I really want to stack. And I guess we'll get into it and see what we like by the end of this. First up, we have
First up.
Let's pull up your screen first up.
That's first up. Yeah. Okay. And if this whole look is different to you, like
we're fiddling with some things.
With the part on the other side of my hair, I mean, its head. I didn't change my haircut. We just kind of changed views, I think.
This looks a little bit better though. All right, so Baltimore and Texas, we're actually in line on the both being at the same time. I think Grayson Rodriguez is an option. I think the kid's really talented. I also think he's shown some real struggles, and it's kind of just occurring to me now that because of just the way that he struggled in a couple of these outings, that maybe we should consider some Texas because you're trying to get different. You know what I mean? I actually think there's going to be more concentrated shot than there usually is for a 12-game slate. But I think so. That's what I've got. I've got Grayson Rodriguez, and I don't mind like Baltimore and Texas. I'm not like excited about either, but I do think that just because Rodriguez had some rough games, we've seen Texas have some really huge offensive games this season. So maybe you could consider a little Texas. Maybe you could consider a little Baltimore. Both teams have pretty powerful offenses. But I'm not targeting any of it as of right now. Partially, it's also Baltimore's really expensive, so it gets kind of tricky, and so is Texas. So I am more on the Grayson Rodriguez side than anything here, but probably going to be mostly off my board for this slate.
I sort of agree with your take on the slate in general. I was looking at my stacks here, and I have like a couple of teams, but not a lot that I like or that I like a lot. And I'm not really getting to Texas or Baltimore as either of those hitting options. As far as pitching goes, the way my pitching slate breakdown is, at least for now, I have one guy who's kind of right at the top, and then I have like an 11-way tie for like my second pitching option, which is I kind of like those slates, at least for my analysis, because I usually just end up probably doing the wrong thing and taking just the lowest owned of like the million guys I like second. Where I should probably focus on is picking the guy with the upside. You know what I mean? And that's something I don't do as much as I should. Like I look at like the values, I look at the numbers and stuff, say, okay, these guys all rate kind of the same, and I'll take the lowest owned guys. But there's a difference between, like you say, two different median pitchers are different. And I got to do a better job with that. But with that said, I do have Rodriguez as one of those second pitching options, and I actually have him, and I might play FanDuel tonight. I actually have him as pretty much my second option on FanDuel. I have one guy at the top or whatever, but I actually have Rodriguez for whatever reason. Maybe it's cheaper, I'm not sure. But I have Rodriguez as kind of like my preferred kind of play on FanDuel aside from the top guy. So that's something to just kind of throw in. Yep. So I'm sort of with you with Rodriguez in general. And I'm not quite getting to as much of the Texas Baltimore. Not that you're getting to a ton of it, but I'm not getting quite there yet. So
I just want to throw out some stacks that make some sense. Just when because we're, like I said, I'm not going to have very many, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the ones even that I don't like that I think have some maybe some merit.
Yep.
Why don't you start off with your Yankees here?
Yeah. So San Diego Yankees, you're getting. It's actually a pretty intriguing pitching matchup. You have Musgrove, who, I mean, let's call it what it is. He's not been the same this year. But it's funny. You were more, I don't say anti-Musgrove, but you were more off of Musgrove before other people were off of Musgrove. Like even to like last year, the year before, where people were just like pounding him as chalk like all the time. Mm-hmm. And I don't understand what's the big deal with Musgrove. And so. With that said, he's very cheap at $7,500. And if he did feel like turning it around, he is. The Yankees are good, whatever, but they can strike out. And I think he's completely in play. The other thing to consider this Vasquez character. I don't know what the Yankees are actually gonna do with him, but you don't gotta do much with him at 4K. The thing that I just feel you about to ask. It's not something you would ask at noon. You usually like ask this at like 6. But if I bring it up at 6, if I start talking about Vasquez, you would say, well, what the hell do you need him for? You know, and that would be probably what would be the voice in the back of my head was, sure, he's 4K and sure he's cheap and maybe he gets you 12 fantasy points or something like that. But I mean, you really want to do this against San Diego with like 100 different pitching options on the slate. So I guess I want to get ahead of the curve and get ahead of the voices in my head by just kind of saying that to myself. And I do have, though, that was interesting. So I do have San Diego as kind of a decent, kind of like second tier stack. But it's one of those things that if Vasquez is good, then maybe you don't want to stack San Diego. And if it's not, and if they see he's struggling a little bit, they'll probably just pull him out. Then you get the Yankee bullpen, which you don't want either. So maybe San Diego is not exactly what I want to do either. But right now, San Diego is kind of on that second tier stacks that I am interested in. And I guess I'm talking myself out of Vasquez. Probably it's the right thing to do to talk myself out of it. But I'm going to leave Musgrove in my SP2 mix.
Yeah, I can see every part of this game like being, I think Musgrove as being a part of your mix is not the worst idea in the world, but it's not like I'm trying to get him. Vasquez, yeah, there's some of that, but it is his first start, and they'll right. He hasn't had that. Did he start one game earlier this season? Maybe I'm trying to figure out his numbers. I know they just called him up, but I thought he may have been on the roster at the start of the year and maybe pitched in relief. But I'll have to get a better feel for how many pitches he's probably going to throw. But I don't mind taking little shots on 4K guys. It's just and today's actually a slate where spending up is kind of, I don't know. I'm finding it a little more desirable than usual, depending on your builds. But so maybe it would be relevant. I don't think I particularly want to go crazy with the Padres today, but I don't mind them. They're a fringy one to me, and the Yankees against Musgrove, there's nobody I really like. They're expensive. Jake Bauers is probably going to be 2,100 with a decent hitting spot. Now you could say, oh well, they'll take him out if they bring in a lefty or something like that, which is possible. But I don't really know why the guys who surround him, why they would bring in a lefty just to face one guy. So I think he's got less of a chance of getting pinch hit for more than most. So I do think that, maybe some pieces, but for me, probably not going to be a stack of either of these teams. All right.
Let me just hang up this person.
Yeah, one thing. Anyway, guys, I'll start off real quickly with St. Louis and Cleveland. No. Just jumping over there.
No.
So St. Louis, Cleveland. Are we done? Like, is this what the deal is? Like, now we're just done with Bieber for good? Is that what's happening?
I don't know. I mean,
I'll go out of my way to play Bieber. I don't care. I believe in long-term stuff, especially with pitchers. They often take a month to get going. I know it's been a little more than that now, and there's definitely been some signs to be certainly worried about. The strikeouts haven't really been there outside of one matchup, but I still believe there is a ceiling. He's always been good against righties in the past, and even as he's struggled, I don't think that he should be taken out of your list. There's other guys I like better than him at the same price, but I don't want to just start this. Okay, well, I'm going to ignore Bieber at 4% ownership. I just don't think it makes enough sense. And I actually think you could make a case on the other side for Liberator against Cleveland. Another young guy with a lot of talent, and I don't mind like taking some shots. So I'm open to both pitching and not getting to any of the hitting.
Yeah, I'm not getting to any of the hitting. I wouldn't discount Bieber as an option. I mean, he's good. Like you said, he's going to be low owned, and while he hasn't been mowing people down, I mean, he's still a good pitcher, right? I mean, I don't know. It's not like listen. We've had enough struggles playing St. Louis when we were in Survivor like 7 years ago. It seems. Mm-hmm. St. Louis, they've been no great shakes. I don't know what to tell you. I think that the slate is. I was about to say I think the slate's like kind of loaded, but maybe it's not that loaded. I don't know, maybe you can play Bieber in 20 max or something like that. I don't know if I would play him in like my one big buy-in or anything like that. But I'm not just throwing him out just because of a couple of starts, whatever. Liberatore, I don't know too much about. He's not showing up that great of a projection. I know he had a good game. I think it was his last game.
No, it was the one before. But he's a talented young guy. Just
okay.
And they've never.
And Cleveland, they haven't hit anybody, right? They haven't hit the ball all season, right? So, yeah, I guess maybe. Again, it's like one of those kind of deepish slates where I don't think I'm going to get to much anything in this game, though.
Yep, same sort of general idea. Just wanted to throw out that I think that both pitchers at no ownership are something you can do to get different. All right, Schuster and Walker in Atlanta. This seems like another spot where you could actually decide to maybe play some of the Atlanta. Honestly, it feels like you can play a little bit of both sides. You do have that 11-mile-an-hour wind coming in from the left again. And it is 77 degrees, though. If the wind stays like that, it's just harder to want to be as excited about the power righties. But there are plenty of lefties you could choose from on the Philadelphia side, especially. Atlanta is the team that people are probably going to go after heavily, or that normally would be gone after heavily here if they weren't, one, really expensive, and also there's just a lot of other teams that people are going to prefer. But I think both of these offenses are certainly in play. For me, I will probably take the underweight approach on both of them, although actually it looks like no one's going to play them. But I do think they're both viable. I have them just a little on the outside looking in, Philadelphia and Atlanta. How about you?
Yeah, Atlanta's fringy secondary play, and that's pretty much all I have. I'm not going to get to in these pitchings. I think I'm supposed to play Philly. But I'm just not seeing him right now. I'll probably end up talking myself into some of that a little bit later. But right now, just to have Atlanta, it's kind of on the second tier, and we'll get to the top tier pretty soon. And that's pretty much it from here.
Yeah, I think that I may talk myself into Philly, especially the lefties as the day goes on. So they don't have to deal with the wind; they get the nice hitting weather, and it's obviously a good matchup. The only problem is, we keep seeing this in this series, is the lefties against lefties. Just how many of them do you want? You're just going to stack lefties against lefties? I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out. Anyway, all right. Well, why don't you start off the game that is this? You're on which game are you on here?
Yeah, so I'm on this Lyles Corbin thing, and I have to say that I think just sort of on principle, I think I want 10% of all four sides of this. Of
what's it called? You want 10% of Corbin?
Of Corbin, 10% of Lyles, 10% of Washington, and 10% of Kansas City. I don't know exactly what I want to do with it, but
what's the purpose of the Corbin and Lyles thing?
Just to save money against the terrible hitting team on both sides.
Yeah,
I mean, no reason really. I mean, just I don't know.
I just don't know like the upside or anything for Corbin. That's the only thing.
Okay, that's fair enough. But I definitely think that of all the four sides, I think the Kansas City hitting option probably makes the most sense. They actually have a couple of guys who'd actually hit the ball. Witt, Perez, even the other side, Pascantino or whatever. And Corbin's been good. He's been, I would say, good, but he's certainly better. He's been okay, but
he hasn't been walking as many guys.
I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why this game just kind of appeals to me. I don't know. So I get right now, according to my numbers, the only thing I have is Kansas City as a possible stack, and literally 0 pitching and 0 for Washington. Because Washington, they don't have anybody. They don't have anybody. But then on the other hand, you have Lyles, who we've been playing just terrible hitters against him before. I don't know. So you're not going to talk me into any of this stuff? What you're saying?
No, I'll play the hitting. I didn't understand the thoughts with the pitching. It just doesn't make sense to me. But like Lyles makes a little. I can understand that argument, but I don't really know what you're getting with Corbin. Like you're just kind of hoping he only gives up 8 hits and none of them are home runs, and
that's fair.
And then he's going to strike out 1 or 2 guys. Like I just can't see it. I can't see it on a 12-game slate personally, but again, like I mean, I guess there's an outside, weird realm where he could put up 20. I'd be more on the Royals here. Like just want to point out again, 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from right center. 75 degrees, so it is a nice hitting day. But except for those winds make a difference on these home runs in general. So batting average means nothing when you do DFS, by the way. That's not really a factor, I don't think.
Someone's asking about that.
They're asking if Washington's like the second best team in the majors with batting average, and the thing is they don't walk at all, so it wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, they're terrible teams. Washington is a terrible offense. They don't score any runs. Period. They're one of the lowest scoring teams. I'm not going to bring up all the stats and get into a thing this early, but they are a team that doesn't score a lot of runs. That's simple as that. I actually think though, like Corey Dickerson 2.3, Meneses a little bit interesting. Keeper Ruiz is totally fine, and then so is on the Perez, Witt, and Olivares would be my three favorites on the other side, but potentially Miguel Garcia will get up in the order. So I'm in on sort of taking a shot on this game. It's one of the spots I do like tonight, but I'm not going to be like overloading it like I thought I might be. And honestly, neither is anybody else, which I thought people would do. So if they're not going to, I may end up a little higher on this than I thought. But I would be thinking more like, I don't know, 25, 30% of my lineups will probably have at least pieces of this game. What do you have with Toronto and Minnesota?
We were on such a good run.
Oh, my bad. We had
it. We were rolling. We were
well, it's not me.
5 for 5. We were 5 for 5. We were the nuts.
It's my being incredible. Like there's nothing I can do. It's just they put it in a different order. It makes no sense. I've worked for and I looked at every other site. There's not one other site that does this, but that's what Saberson does.
So funny.
So
all right. So I have San Francisco, Milwaukee. So I guess I'll deal with that. Peralta is always in play, and he's always going to do exactly what the opposite of what I'm expecting. And that's just the way it's going to be. He's got a lot of variance, and he's got a lot of upside, and so it makes him a good tournament play pretty much every time. I shouldn't say pretty much every time. Every time he pitches, but
are you implying that he's inconsistent? Because I don't think that's at all true about him. But
how about this? He's inconsistent for me. How about that?
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, all I'll just say is that I had him 2 games ago, and when he had 0.8 fantasy points. That's all I can say.
Yeah, that's
for me. And then there's another one here where he has 8, where I probably had him. Here's another one here where I have 5, where I probably had him. It's just kind of an accident, I guess. I always have him in the 5 and the 8 and the 1 and the 0.8. But nonetheless, he's over 90 pitches every start, and he's got strikeouts, and he's a good play. Now, San Francisco is been kind of tough against righties, but that's maybe will keep his ownership in check. So he's definitely in play. Alex Wood at 6,300. Milwaukee hasn't been great, especially against lefties. I don't know. I think I can get away without playing like Corbin's and Lyles and Woods and not that those are all the same, right? I mean, Woods obviously better than those guys, but I think I can get away without playing these 6,300s. So if I needed to play the 6,300, I guess Wood would be my. Is Wood that much better? Yeah, I guess he has to be. I was comparing Wood to Schuster for a second. You guys, because Wood's got to be better than Schuster. But so I don't think I'm going to do the Wood thing. But I think I'll play Peralta, and I'm not going to get to the hit.
It's actually an interesting question that you just mentioned about didn't even think about the Schuster thing as a play, so I wasn't really considering it. But like that's actually not. There probably isn't a huge difference there. San Francisco strikes out the second, basically the most in baseball. It's them and the Twins, right? They strike out all the time. So I'm not going to get here and scared off by San Francisco. I think that this is a really good matchup for Peralta, and of course, I just think I actually think he's fairly consistent. I think that you're going to have one game out of every 4 or 5 starts for every pitcher, and where they don't put up a big number. And I think that's just what you're going to see with him. I'm not saying he's the top level, most elite pitcher, but he's in that realm of those guys. He's a very, very, very good pitcher. And, he's been good even look at some of these matchups, what we left out is he had a bad game at St. Louis when St. Louis was in the middle of scoring 30 runs a night. But he dominated the Dodgers. He dominated in Colorado, or he was good in Colorado. He was really good against the Dodgers. So I'm going to play Peralta here. He's one of my priorities for pitching.
Mhm.
I'm not getting to Alex Wood. I just don't see the need for it quite. And I actually think that the perception of Milwaukee and the reality of it too, their struggles against lefties, guys like Adames and Contreras, who are, historically good against these guys, I think that you could play these guys and feel pretty decent about it. Just maybe not a stack, but maybe just like a little 2-man or something, like with those two, Adames and Contreras especially, I think are totally reasonable. So that's all I have for the hitting in this game. And like I said, I will be playing Peralta. I'm probably going to play like a total of 6 pitchers tonight, and Peralta will be one of the 4 highest owned. I don't know where he'll be exactly in that group. Because in the next game, and now I know it's on track because it's the only other 5-10 game, I have Gausman number 1, along with probably most people, to be honest with you. I think that you could certainly make a case against it, but like I said, Minnesota strikes out the most of any team in baseball. Gausman is just awesome and has been able to get through games easily. He's been both pretty consistent. He had one terrible start. Actually, he's had a couple bad starts, but he's human. And everything else is basically the nuts. So I'm willing to play Gausman as my top pitcher as of right now. He is the one I will have the most exposure to at this moment. He's going to be really popular, and there are other options, but that's what I've got. This is an interesting game because, like, I was trying to think about why I'm not more interested in Toronto. I know Varland isn't bad, but I just think that Toronto is always interesting against even an average pitcher, and I just didn't get to them much, but I'm willing to reconsider it. 77 degrees in Minnesota, 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from right field. Toronto, you'd mostly be playing righties anyway, so it wouldn't really affect you much. So I would say Toronto as a secondary thing, but Gausman being the main thing I want in this game.
I have Gausman as the top-rated pitcher as well on DraftKings. I have him, like I said, closer for some. I have no idea why, but to the G-Rod on FanDuel. But nonetheless, I have Gausman as the top option, by a pretty decent margin. I don't know if I'm actually going to do it, only because I think that he's going to be really popular, and I think there's like some pretty good
pivots,
options. You know what I mean? That you can play instead of him.
Yeah,
so, that's about that. And and if you need any nudging, I want to play Toronto. So I like them. There are 2 kind of obvious teams we're going to get to, and I think Toronto is sort of little less obvious, and I kind of like them. So Toronto is going to be one of my targets actually.
Yeah, I think that I kind of like that. I think they're a little bit interesting of an off the board stack that I could see things going well for.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Why don't you start us off here?
Yeah, so we have Mets at Colorado. It's a pretty intriguing game when you think about it. So, first of all, the Mets finally got off of what seems like a whole season-long schneid here. I mean, they scored 10 runs yesterday, and they get to come into Colorado and go against Seabold. So I imagine they're going to be super chalky, and they certainly rate to be one of the top 2 stacks on the board. They don't rate to be the top one by that much, which is kind of rare for a team going into Colorado. It's especially rare for a team going in against Seabold as well. But I do have the Mets rated pretty well, and they're going to be owned. So it's a decision you always have to make. As far as the pitching goes, so we talked about Seabold not playing him, but Scherzer, I don't want to play him. Okay, so he's at Colorado, and I know that sometimes people like to play some pitchers at Colorado, just to be contrarian or whatever. I would prefer to, if I'm going to play Scherzer like this, because Scherzer does have name value, so I think people are going to play him anyway.
I don't think so.
I don't know. I don't. I think that I prefer to see a little more strikeouts from him before I start playing him again in Colorado. So I'm gonna not do it. You usually play Scherzer more than I do, so maybe you could talk me into it. But I'm probably gonna be off of the Scherzer. So for me, it's a question of how much ownership I want to eat with the Mets, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, Scherzer coming off of 2 back-to-back matchups against the lowest strikeout teams in the league. doesn't mean anything to me. So I think Scherzer is a tremendous tournament play. I don't think anyone in the world is going to play him. Okay. And I think that he is I'll tell you what, Sheets, if you want to play a Met stack, the way you could do it is you play Scherzer and Bieber because I don't know how else you can get away from it's going to be crazy chalk. Green Monster as he comes in and often does. And I like Green Monster, but it's hilarious. Every time he comes in, and it only seems like it's the day where there's mega chalk. And the first thing he writes about a Met stack. We're like, okay, well, no. It's the most obvious stack. The only way you can do it is if you get and I think you need to have 2 sub 10% pitchers. I don't think you can play 1 sub 10%.
Well, you could, what you could do, you could play, play Schuster and G-Rod or something.
Yeah. Grayson Rodriguez is going to be pretty popular, actually.
Oh, you think so?
I don't think that's low owned enough.
You play Corbin and Lyles.
No, I think Scherzer and Bieber are the answer. You want actual guys who have ceiling.
You think that Scherzer and Bieber are going to really outscore Lyles and Corbin? You think so? I think that's.
Yes, I do. I just barely do. So the Mets are more pieces for me. I do think you can combo stack them if you want. If there's another stack you like that's low owned, I think it's impossible to talk me into a 5-man stack of a team with this kind of ownership on a giant slate. But it's a significantly better spot on paper than it is for anybody else. It's really not all that close. Not to mention the winds are blowing out to center 11 miles an hour. There is some weather concern, as there often is in Colorado. I don't try to worry about that unless it looks really bad. This doesn't look so bad. So I'm in on the Mets. I just don't see a way you could even do it that makes enough sense to me. So they're going to be filler pieces. I don't mind if you want to do a 4-4 with the Mets and you have another team that's going to be low on. I think that's something totally optional. But I don't think you can go five Mets and 3 basically anythings and expect to be different enough. Well, I guess if you're 3 were I don't know, the Angels or something, I'm Miami or something like that, something weird, maybe you could, but I just don't personally see that as being the most viable. I like the idea of getting to 3 or 4 in some lineups, but that's pretty much all I will do. I'm not playing any Colorado bats, and I will, even if I like Scherzer, I'm probably not talking about more than 10 or 15% of my lineups. It's just, he is one of the 6 pitchers I'm going to use. And it's just because when you get a stud who's priced down and he's just coming back from the little injury, so he's only thrown mid-80s pitches his last 2 times out. I think they're going to start ramping him back up. And I just think it's worth taking shots on. I think if I thought he was going to be anything below 10%, I probably would still want twice as much of him to 4 times as much, depending on how much lower than 10% he'll be. But I am also the guy who's always, I can't even say I've played too much of him because he's been really good to me over the years, but there's been so many times where in bad matchups I've played him and he's just gotten me there. All right. So Angels and Miami, actually decent, hitting-ish weather. It's getting a little bit warmer, 65 degrees in Anaheim. We've had 1 game in the 70s. I think everything else has mostly been down in this range. 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to right center, not too bad. I never know what to do with this Reed Detmers on big slates. I know on small slates I like to play him a little bit. I think he's viable right alongside the Grayson Rodriguez thing. I would say Detmers is completely reasonable. And I don't think I'm kind of stuck with this. I'm kind of trying to figure out this Luzardo. Just even his projection seems a little bit low, but I'm not going to play him. I also don't really want to stack against him. So I'm kind of off the hitting in this game. I guess Detmers is the only thing I'm really kind of interested in. I considered the Angels at one point as a get weird thing, but I like Luzardo actually. So I think I'm just on Detmers.
I agree with pretty much everything you said. I don't think I'm going to get to any of the hitting here. I think Luzardo is fine, but not at 9,500. And I think Detmers is in that, like I said, in that SP2 7,700 guys that maybe you don't need to play, but you need to include in your pool type thing. He's not going to be in my big buy-in, but he's going to get into MME probably, and he's probably going to get 15, or whatever. But that's I pretty much agree with everything you said.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, I did want to point out one thing I mentioned earlier. San Francisco, while they do strike out a lot as a team, they have the second most strikeouts in the league. They've faced a lot of lefties this year because they actually are middle of the road against righties in terms of strikeouts. So did just want to correct what I said about San Francisco when I was talking about that game. They are still second in the league in strikeouts overall, but when you're number 1 against lefties and number 14 against righties. It's probably worth mentioning.
So I'll tell you, these last 3 games, there's a lot of action here. I mean,
this is where I'm at. Same as you here.
There's a lot of pivots. There's a lot of stuff going on. So in all 3 of them. So let's talk about this. I guess I'll do the first one.
Yeah.
So Houston, Oakland. I think that Houston is clearly, I mean, it's clearly, if not the best stack, the at least close to the Mets.
Yeah.
And I also think they're going to be pretty highly owned also. Just so you know. But I definitely really like Houston.
Pretty highly owned, meaning like 1/3 or 1/4 of Colorado.
You think that's it? Okay.
Well, I mean, right now the current your projections currently, which are there. They've got them. They've got one guy above 10% owned.
Okay.
Whereas every single player, their highest owned player in this game will be the well lower owned than anybody on the Mets side.
Yeah. So I like that, and then Hunter Brown is clearly the uber pivot off of Gausman. If not, someone should just play with him, which I know you like to do sometimes. So
my first build is
So I mean, this is upside. This is good matchup. This is everything that you want in a play. So Hunter Brown, yep. Houston, yep. No Caprillion, no.
Yep. I'm in on Houston completely. I don't like it. By the way, probably worth noting that they've been in 2 awesome matchups, and their last 2 awesome matchups, I think they scored a total of 0 runs. Right? Remember we just had them at chalk.
Uh-huh.
And the flip side is, to maybe play the devil's advocate here. I don't think Caprillion is good. I also know that the A's bullpen, I think, has an ERA around 7 this year, just to give you an idea. This would be like the worst bullpen of all time. Caprillion, though, has been good his last couple times out. And if there's anything you could say to his credit, he's only given up. Oh, he did. He had the 1 3-home run game. And then other than that, hasn't really given up anything his last 4 starts. I'm just trying to talk myself. That would be talking yourself out of it. As it stands, I am going to be playing Houston. Now, it's weird because I don't love stacking games in Oakland. It's, 60 degrees, not great. But it is blowing out at 10 miles an hour, and it does help in that stadium to have a little extra boost. So I like that we at least have, and it's not 50 degrees like it was earlier. I mean, there was games in Oakland we had earlier in the year, like in the mid 40s. So the weather is getting a little bit warmer, and I'm going to be on the Houston side. I love Hunter Brown. I'm going to be overweight on this guy all the time, and I honestly think that he's right there with. I don't think there's this monstrous gap between he and Gausman. What also I like about Hunter Brown is he's thrown over 93 pitches, I believe, in all of his starts. Maybe it's 91, but he's thrown over 90 pitches to every one of his starts. He always is effective enough. You got a guy who doesn't walk people. He had the one bad walk game, but in general, in his minors, didn't walk anybody. And with an incredible K rate against the A's, who are the second highest strikeout team against right-handed pitching in baseball. So I'm in. I'm in on both Houston and the what kind of pitcher's name, Hunter Brown. Anything else in this one, Sheets? Before I guess we just jump.
No, we got 2 more though. I mean, like this is nuts. We got all kinds of stuff. So Boston, Arizona. I mean, listen, it's not like Chris Sale's 6K anymore. Whatever we played him at, like 7,000. I forgot what price we played him at, but he was certainly cheaper than this. I think he's completely in play here at 9K. Just again, he's going to be who's going to play this? So
he's going to be extremely popular.
Who put Sale?
Yeah.
Oh well, I wouldn't have expected that. I figured it'd just be Gausman, Peralta, and other guys. But okay,
Sale's been on fire. It's I think he's going to end up being probably the second or third highest on pitcher.
All right. Well, in any case, I do like him as like kind of like one of those like high upside SP2s that I have in my list. And I also have Boston as a kind of a secondary stack to kind of consider also. So Boston and Sale, nothing from the flat man, and nothing for Arizona.
Just double checking the Arizona roof status, which I didn't check yet. Because that's one thing that it's me, Sheets. If I play stack Boston outside of like Boston, New York, or something like that, it's pretty rare. It seems like they're going to be closing the roof. My guess is, it's closed the next 3 days. So, and that's probably going to continue to be the case because those of you who haven't been to Arizona in the summer, it's rough.
No, yeah, it's not fun.
Yeah.
It's dry heat. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels nasty when it's 120 on you, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I can totally get behind the Red Sox and Sale. I have Sale as a slightly lower tier than my top 4 guys. But he is my fifth. Bieber and Scherzer, but Bieber and Scherzer are more because of ownership. Sale would be my 5th favorite, just overall pitcher on the slate. I just have the other guys. I'll probably play more of the other guys because I'm getting the low ownership. That's pretty much it. But yeah, I can actually talk myself into some Red Sox here, and it's partly because I just don't love a lot of full stacks tonight. We haven't run into anything that's seems that amazing, right?
Nope. Well, I like Houston.
Other than Houston, right?
I like the Mets.
And like you said, maybe Houston does it more own because I think that's what other people are going to see. Yeah, but the Mets are going to be how are you going to successfully?
No, I get it. I also have a feeling that San Diego might get to this Yankee kid, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's possible for sure. San Diego's, I think, looking really popular on FanDuel last time I checked, but I wasn't sure. All right.
So we didn't like any of that. You wanted more pivots. I mean, here we go. I think you have Keller and Kirby, and I think both of them are in play. I don't know which one I even like more. I mean, I have to think I like Kirby more. Even though Keller's really just kind of come into it, but just think Seattle's a better hitting team than Pittsburgh is. So I do like both these guys as kind of as just more pivots. So throw both of them into the hopper, and they're certainly good enough to keep me off the hitting for both sides.
Yeah, like I said before the year, I've said it in the past that I think this Mitch Keller is going to be good. I didn't think he'd be this good. This is kind of ridiculous what he's been doing lately. I mean, if you guys haven't been noticing, he's the highest scoring player on the slate for DFS. He's literally putting up a Cy Young season right now. I know, a legitimate one. He's been incredibly dominant and extremely effective in working quickly through innings. He had a bad first start, and since then has sort of just been just awesome. You look at his numbers and you'd wonder why he's not the top play on the slate. I kind of get it. I just, I'm going to play some of them, but as of right now, I don't have him in my top 4 because I really like Kirby, but I'll tell you, I certainly wouldn't fault anybody if they had Mitch Keller ahead of everyone. This is something you want to get on the earlier parts of. At some point, it's going to come to regress a little bit, but the truth is he's not walking people. He's striking everybody out when the ball's not being put in play. And none of them are on walks, and things just keep turning over innings. It's just really hard to get to a guy. I was a little concerned that I know it's a kind of concern you'd never have for a guy who's 10, unless it's 10K plus, but that they only let him throw 84 pitches in his last start. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it was a close game, and he wasn't really struggling. So I was kind of surprised that they did that. Just trying to find a reason to play other guys who rate very similarly. So I have him as I think he actually would be my 5th pitcher. He, Sale, Bieber, and Scherzer are all the non-top 4 guys for me. And then Gausman, Brown, Kirby, and Peralta are my top 4 right now. But I think they are somewhat interchangeable when you factor in Sale and Keller. You could easily replace the guys you've got with Sale and Keller, and you're in just as good a shape. I don't think there's a big gap between all these guys.
I don't think you need to play Detmers. I don't think you need to play Schuster. I don't think you need to play Vasquez. I don't think you need to play Wood. I'm just kind of looking at this.
Yeah, it's just with all this upside guys, what are we doing with the cheap guys, the Detmers? But the problem is Detmers and Grayson Rodriguez have enough upside to be in there with those guys, especially with Grayson.
Yeah, I mean, you could put something together with Musgrove, even G-Rod, Sale, Brown, Kirby. You don't have to play. You really don't have to play Gausman. You want to know the truth?
No, absolutely not. He just has the best matchup. But yes,
right.
I mean, but it's not even that. It's not
even. He's the best projection. He's the best play. You know what I mean? But
right.
Yeah, and as far as I think hitting's the more challenging part, as you kind of alluded to early. You know what I mean? Like you could play the Mets. Duh. You know what I mean?
Right.
You could even play Houston. Great. But maybe the idea, And I do think people at the end of the day are going to play Kansas City. But maybe something like Atlanta or Toronto, it makes some sense.
Sort of that idea of the good hitting teams when everything else, you know what I mean?
Yeah, something that feels a little uncomfortable, you know. But
right.
but like you said, but you have, you know, Vladimir Guerrero 4 or 5 at bats. You know what I mean? So yeah. So it's I think this could be a fun slate. Listen, this slate's definitely not over until, you know, you fade the Mitch Keller perfect game. You know what I mean? Like I mean, all 4 of these 940 games, like between Hunter Brown, Sale, Keller, and Kirby, all 4 of those guys can outscore Gausman, for example.
Right. Oh yeah.
So it's nobody's counting their money until the end.
100%. And also, I agree with what you said early on. Like, look, if you find yourself with a somewhat chalky build, you have a bunch of pivots you can just take out Gausman out of. You know what I mean? And differentiate in a major way. There's literally like we have 8 good options at the top today. So I've got my priority stacks as Houston, Mets pieces, but again, not the full part, and then Washington, KC, and then the other teams that I'm looking at it possibly including would be in order: Philadelphia, Boston, Atlanta, Toronto, San Diego. So those are the other ones I'm considering.
I'm looking at the Houston prices just for the hell of it. So Altuve is back to day-to-day. So he didn't start yesterday or on Wednesday. Did he play?
We don't know for sure if he'll play tonight.
Right. Well, he hasn't done anything since he's come back. Maybe it's better he doesn't.
Yeah, he hasn't done anything, but, you know, play the long term.
So Alvarez at 6K is probably going to look pretty cheap. I mean, when you think about it, when he gets it going, he's freaking tough. Tucker, Bregman. Trying to think if there's any way to. Has Abreu gotten a home run yet this season? He was at 0. Yeah, he's still 0. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know, it's nuts to me.
I'm just looking through this lineup here. I didn't even know Michael Brantley was still on the team. It's so funny. All right. So listen. So we'll be there at 6.
Yep.
And that'll do it.
Yeah. Good luck, everybody, and good luck on your golf lineups.